on YouTube, but they're not public on YouTube, which means that you need to get the link in order for them to work, to copyright. Some of the we send have them public on YouTube, which means that you need to get the link. Some of them are on the emails that we sent. Otherwise, you can always send me an email and I'll send you the links if you. Okay, yeah, not a problem. Okay, let's begin now. After that intro, the Kabballah of Meaning lesson 3, and we're now going to take this a step further, meaning in the mundane. And for those who are concerned that it was, I think that you could put those concerns to rest in today's lesson. Okay, we are on page number 67. So until now, we talked about two things. They say that Albert Einstein, famous, brilliant, but also absent-minded, he was on a train going from Germany to France, and the conductor comes by and he's looking for his ticket and he forgets, where did I put it? Is it in this pocket, that pocket? I can't find it. And the conductor looks at him and says, "You're Albert Einstein. We know who you are. It's okay. If you can come." And he comes back again around. He's still looking for it, looking in his bag, and says, "It's okay. We know who you are. It's fine. You don't worry. You're all good." He says, "I know who I am, but I don't know where I'm going." So over here, we're actually going to flip the script a little bit. Sometimes we may feel that we know where we're going, but we may lose sight of who am I. Sometimes people are missing the other one. Sometimes they know who they are, or they think they know who they are, but they don't know where they're going. And that's, of course, what this is all about. What we're going to begin with today is where we talked about the importance of purpose in life. But for many, how do you get to a stage like in the video that we just watched for someone to find purpose in everything? Let's take a look at page 67. This is an exercise. Won't spend too much time on it. 1 to 5. What is considered no meaning at all? 5, something being deeply meaningful. Waking up and taking a shower, is that a 1 or a 5 or somewhere in between? Eating breakfast, taking vitamins or medication, morning prayer or medicine, doing your primary job, preparing meals for yourself or others, doing housework, helping someone, attending a study session or learning something new, exercising or walking, all these things. You don't have to finish them all, but answer a couple of them. And the basic question of this is there anyone that had a 1 by all or a 5 by all? No. They're all different. Everything is different. Because some things are more meaningful and some things are less meaningful. Things in life that seem to be more meaningful or less. And the question here that we're going to present is that actually the case? So when we turn to our usual sources of meaning, so perhaps there are things that may fall short. They may not be things that involve self-improvement or success or relationships. When we think about things that happen in life. So we're here in a classroom. There's a question that they ask, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? We're here in a classroom. We're all learning. What came first, the desire to learn, or what's being taught? Obviously, the first thing that exists is the learning, the teaching. I searched, everyone here likes to play pickleball. So you have pickleball courts all over the villages. Now, for pickleball, and like any other game, how do they start? They didn't start where there was actually a court and then you said, now let's try and make a game. I looked at it, began in 1965 in a children's backyard. And why is it called pickleball? There's two opinions. Sounds like something Talmudic. Uh, either it's because that was the guy's boat, or some say it was his dog's name, Pickle. Some say that, but anyway, it was something he had a pickle boat, and so he called it pickleball. And some say that he had a dog named Pickle, so he named it pickleball. Anyway, but it started with a few kids playing a game with a wiffle ball and with these little paddles, and suddenly it turned into something. Everything in life that we have today comes to exist. There's seats up here, by the way, if you want. Comes into existence not based on someone deciding that this is the way it should be, but rather something in life that causes these things to develop and to grow. Now, when it comes to building something, however, if you want to build properly, you have to make a blueprint and figure out what you're going to build. Now, what you're building is based on what your needs are. So even that what you're building is based on what your needs are. So when you're going and you see it and you decide you want a house, you say, well, I like to do this and I like to do that. And, this is how I want my kitchen to look, and this is how I want my dining room to look, and etc. And it's all based on what you feel that your needs are. When it comes to God creating the world, so God is creating the world, but he's creating it with a mission and a purpose. In other words, he is creating the purpose. He is creating the vision as that is being done. And what exactly is that? Is it for us? Is it because we need something? Today AI is very big. Everyone follows AI. But if anybody's ever tried using AI, ChatGPT or something like that? No? Yeah, some of you have. Okay. So you're basically telling it to do something for you, and it puts it together. Now, what it's actually doing is collecting a lot of information and just putting that existing information into a format for you, which is why you got to be careful. Sometimes there's incorrect information there, and you got to be careful with that. Like sometimes I ask it, can you tell me something about Hanukkah? And it'll tell me something like, Jews eat matzah on Hanukkah. Not always does it get it right. So so let's take a look at text number 1a when we talk about God creating the world. This is from Avot, from the Mishnah. Everything that God created in this world, he created only for his glory. As it is stated, all that is attributed to my name is for my glory. I created and formed it and made it. So that's what Isaiah says. Everything in this world, I created for my glory. I formed it and I made it. So what exactly does that mean? Everything is attributed to God's name, meaning it's there to enhance his glory. So what we're saying is that there is a purpose that predates the system. That whatever we see in the world today, there is a purpose that predates that. So what exactly is the purpose of creation? And this is where we could get a little bit deep. So we begin with one of the Kabbalistic sources, Rabbi Yehuda Lau, also known as the Maharal of Prague. He was most famous for his golem that he made, supposedly. But he's one of the Kabbalistic authors, and he writes as follows. He says, what is the purpose of the world? He said, God is the purpose of all people, of all things, for everything was created to serve his glory. Thus, God is the sole purpose, and there is no purpose but for him. King Solomon of blessed memory similarly concluded his work. The end of the matter, after everything has been heard, is to revere God, to observe his commandments, for this is the entire human. This means that the entire universe was created only for this purpose. The universe was created for humans, and humans were created to revere God and observe his commandments. Considering that this is the sole purpose of all humans and the entire universe, it is fitting that we each make this our sole purpose. So what he's basically saying is God, for a purpose, is in order to serve him, and therefore he gave us commandments, Torah, mitzvahs, in order to serve him properly. But what exactly does that mean? What exactly does it mean to serve God? Well, ordinarily, we think of ourselves as a purpose. We think of our well-being, our needs, our pleasures. We can even think of ways to fill those needs. But now we're coming along and saying, according to Kabbalah, that we're actually here to serve a higher purpose, not to serve our own needs. You know, it's interesting. This past week, I don't know if any of you noticed, any of you saw this, but Elon Musk said that in the near future, it will come a time that money will be no more necessary. Nobody's going to need any more money. You saw that? Yeah.
And then she goes.
And he's talking about the AI, how, basically things are going to be taken over by robots. So what's going to happen then? This is not coming from someone that's, some guy off the street. This is someone that has that has the accomplishments to back it up. I'm not saying he's a prophet, but it's not coming from nowhere, right? And the truth is that Maimonides says the Torah tells us that when Mashiach comes, all the good things in the earth is going to be considered like nothing. Why? Because the entire purpose is going to be to serve the Creator. And what he's saying is that we often do things in our life that's to serve ourselves in different ways. Everything is, how do I get this? How do I get that? How do I make my life better? And everything is self-centered. And not necessarily, not even in a bad way. We're not talking about being selfish, just self-centered. Life is self-centered. Everything is, what could I do to make my life better? And when we take a different approach, we start realizing that no, the world does not revolve around us, but there's actually something greater than myself. And the truth is that this is even for spiritual benefits. Because most people look at themselves at the spiritual benefits that they're going to gain. But even for that, it's not the case. If you were to walk around a really heavy-duty Orthodox community, let's say Lakewood, someone that has not studied Hasidus and Kabbalah the way we're doing now, and go around and ask them, why do you serve God? Why do you do Torah and mitzvahs the way you do? Why are you an Orthodox Jew? Probably most of them will answer, in order that I will go to Gan Eden, in order that I'll go to heaven. Probably most of them will answer that. I'm not even talking about other religions, but even within the Jewish religion. Why do you do mitzvahs? Because this way you'll go to the world to come. And let's say that's true. But is that why you're doing it? Is that why we're doing, so that I could end up somewhere better? Let's say you're ending up somewhere better. Is that why I'm doing, to end up somewhere better? Take a look at text number 2. One should not say, I will fulfill the mitzvah of the Torah and study its wisdom to receive its many blessings or to merit reward in the world to come. I'll refrain from the sins against which the Torah warns to be spared punishment, or so my soul will not be cut off from life in the world to come. It is not befitting to serve God in this manner, Those whose service is motivated by these factors serve God out of fear. They're not out of the level of prophets or the wise. So this is the Rambam Maimonides telling us that that's not the way to serve God. Which is why even in many of those communities, once they begin discovering the teachings that we have here, their eyes open up as well. So when you have an inside the system attitude, you're always saying, what can God do for me? And it's always, how can my life be better? But when you're taking it the other's perspective, it's not how the saying goes, not what can I do, what can the country do for me, what can I do for the country? Okay, that was one of the great statements from the president. Who was it? Kennedy said it, right? Oh, really? November 22nd. Okay, there you go. So Kennedy said it. Imagine telling that to youth today. How many youth would be interested in hearing such a thing? They ask not what you can do, what the country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country, right? In other words, it's not like and this is the way most people live their life is, what can God do for me, right? We may not ask that question straight up, but more or less that's what we're asking in life. What can I get out of life? How can I have everything the best? And when something is missing, then we feel like we've been sidelined. But when we change it and say, what can I do for God? What can I do for my purpose? What can I do for my reason in this world? Then everything suddenly changed. We're going to get to questions in a little bit. And so this is not demeaning. It's actually dignifying. It imbues your life and every action with a real cosmic significance. It says that you are not just here to live and be merry and move on, but it's something that's purposeful and fulfilling. And so this is an invitation to flip the script. Every moment in life, every breath, every relationship, every job, every meal could be part of something infinite. In other words, this is not just when I go to synagogue on Yom Kippur and then I'm going to remember I'm going to serve God then. But actually, every single aspect in life, whether it's going out to dinner, whether it's going to a golf game, whether it's going to meet a friend, every aspect of life now becomes something with a higher purpose. And it sounds like surrender, but it's actually the opposite. When we are living life in this way, we're transcending ourselves. It's not about what I want. It's not about what I'm doing. The difference of playing just a game for myself, or am I playing for the team? Somehow you never see. No, they say there's a rabbi who was teaching a young boy for his bar mitzvah, and the boy said, there's football game. I can't. I'm going to miss next Monday night because my team is playing football. And he says, okay. So I'm not going to make the bar mitzvah lessons. Sorry. So okay. So he goes to the football game. The next week he comes back, and he tells the rabbi, my team, it's probably the Phillies. Anyway, what's it called? The Eagles. And he tells the rabbi, I'm sorry. Did they win? Yeah, they won. He says, listen, why couldn't they just go and play at 1:00 in the afternoon? Why do they have to wait till the 8:00 Monday night time? He says, because there was the other team that was challenging them. He says, aha, this is your lesson in life. Sometimes there are things that are challenging you, that are looking towards you, that's it, that seems to be in your way. That's when you play the game. If you're only going to play the game, when you want to play the game, then that's not life. So most players that are playing, they're not just obviously they're getting paid pretty well, but that's not the reason that they're playing. Most of them, they're playing because they want to win the game, because there's something there that they got to accomplish here. And so when our story is part of God's story, then it's no steam wasted, no act that's too small. Everything is part of what happens. Everything is what part of everything takes place at that moment. And we're all willing to admit that a purposeful life is ultimately a more joyful and more satisfying one. But sometimes we have to find a way to actually get it and to live that way. It's not easy to make a shift. No one's saying that this is easy to just change our way overnight. But when we try and make things important, when we try to make things not about just what do I want, but realize that every aspect of life has something deeper, then this is then this is how we have a more meaningful life. Questions? Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to say that most of my life I lived, not with you guys. And so I didn't have really God in my life, and now that I do, I feel so much more free than I ever did. So I totally agree with what you're saying.
Okay. Yes.
Six, and you take the
It's creating what?
heaven on earth.
Oh, heaven on earth. Okay. Yeah. Heaven on earth. So actually that term that you're mentioning is actually what we're going to be looking at in a moment. Yeah. Yes.
I have a way.
Okay. Right. Right.
Media.
Yes. So let's continue on. Page 76. This is from the Medrash. A very interesting statement. The Medrash says as follows: when God created the world, he desired to have a dwelling place in the lower realms, just as he has in the upper realms. In plain terms, what does that mean? I mean, God wanted a home down here. A space where he can be present at home in his, just as in the loftiest, most spiritual realms. So we talk about high spiritual realms. What exactly does that mean? Whatever that means, but we know that obviously there is a higher spiritual world. And you ask, if you were making that choice, okay, why would you want to make a home in a place where there's a lot of problems, right? If you wanted to build a home, what would you do? You would want to look for a nice neighborhood, a good, safe place. Why would you want to go to a neighborhood that's got rampant with crime and there's a lot of no goodniks there? Why would you want to build your house there, right? And God says, no, I want to take my home and I want to put it in a place that I know that there's going to be those that are not going to see godliness there. And why is it that God says, no, I want my home to be in the lower realms? So this is the Medrash. And the idea is that God didn't just create a world to have a home. A home is in the spiritual realms. You have many angels. God has many angels. He doesn't need to have human beings for that. But when there is resistance, when there's confusion, when there's even denial, then that is a place to have a home. When you are playing the game, like we said before, if there's no opponent, then there's no meaning to that. God wanted us to be the ones to make his home. God wanted us to look in every aspect of life and said, make a win there when there's the opponents coming at you. And this ultimately is the purpose of creation. This is what the book of Tanya talks in details, that the purpose of creation is for each and every one of us to make a dwelling place for God in this lower realms. And within the lower realms, you talk about not necessarily only the holy places on earth, but even the places that there's not so much holiness revealed. Take a look at text number 4. This is from the book of Tanya. This is the idea behind the chain-like progression of a spiritual world, how they descend step by step through many layers that act like coverings, hiding the light and life force that come from God. Eventually, this process leads to the creation of our physical, material world. This world is the lowest of all. It hides God's presence more than any other. It's a world of deep and layered darkness filled with klipa, spiritual coverings, and sitra achra, forces that oppose holiness, which can even deny God altogether, saying things like, it's just me, nothing else matters. This descent wasn't for the sake of the higher worlds. For them, each step down is a loss of closeness to God. The real purpose was the lowest world. This is what God wanted, that he would take pleasure when the sitra achra is overcome with darkness, is turned into light, and that his infinite light should shine precisely here, in the very place where he seems most hidden. This is one of the most fundamental teachings of Chabad Hasidus. So, if you learn these 2 paragraphs, then you've already learned more than any other books that you'll find in the library about why am I here? Because this actually tells you everything in a nutshell. And that is, I'm here to make a dwelling place for God in the lowest realms. It's easy to light up a room that's already bright, but to bring a candle in a place of darkness, that's where it's a challenge. The Lubavitcher Rebbe once met with, then he was Ambassador Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu. Then he was ambassador in the 1970s. And he told him that you're going to be in a house of darkness, and your job is to bring light to a house of darkness. And he actually said this story in the UN. He was the ambassador to the UN. He actually said the story publicly in the UN. He said, the Lubavitcher Rebbe told me that you're going to be in a house of darkness and to bring light to a house of darkness. So it's easy to just hang around our peers and friends, those who all agree with us. But when we are making a light in a place where it's different, that is the challenge. And I'm going to get to question in a second. And this is precisely what our purpose is. And this is why you want to know the secret of Chabad, which you said, which we were watching before. How do you have Chabad centers in Beijing, China, or in Bangkok, Thailand, or in Jamaica, or in Mexico? Why don't we stay in Brooklyn? It's a lot, believe me, it's a lot easier there. Okay? And the answer is because, as we say in Yiddish, it's no kunst. You're not fulfilling the ultimate purpose. You have to bring godliness to every place in the world, to every corner in the world. Text number 5, and how is this done? When we do Torah mitzvahs, God gave us a blueprint of how to bring light into the world. When we do a mitzvah, an act of God that God commanded, we draw his infinite light down into the physical world, into the actual tangible objects we use to fulfill the mitzvah. For example, the parchment used to make the tefillin, a mezuzah for a Torah scroll. In other words, when we perform a mitzvah, you're not just doing a nice thing, but you're taking a piece of this world and you're making it holy. Like you say, why does the tefillin have to be made in that way? Let's just say a prayer. Why do you have to put on the tefillin? People sometimes tell me, God is in my heart, right? Why do I have to put on the tefillin? While you're doing that, you are taking a physical object and bringing holiness into it. That is why it's always encouraged to have a tzedakah box, like you see here, a tzedakah box, and give a few coins every day. Because it's not just about, I'm going to give money to the organization and we'll all feel good. But you also have to do that act every day. of putting it, when you're doing a coin in the box, you're actually affecting your physical life. Your physical hand is now doing a mitzvah. So, and lighting Shabbos candles or whatever it is. And so it's the idea of affecting the physical world around us. A lot of people here like driving mobile homes, but I was just in Crown Heights, and they have a different kind of mobile homes there. They're called mitzvah tanks. And they're, as they're driving, you see them driving around the streets in New York. And so you see, you're taking a nice mobile home, which people like to just use for themselves, for their own enjoyment, saying, no, let's turn it into a mitzvah. Let's turn it into something good. Someone had a question. Questions? Yes. The higher worlds means the higher spiritual realms, like the spiritual realms where the angels are. Where we talk in our prayers. We say a prayer before Shema. We say Kadosh, 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 right? And then we read. I don't know if you ever read the translation there. It talks about the Ofanim and Chayas HaKodesh. These are different types of angels in higher realms, higher spiritual realms. It's not really the class now to explain that, but there is a concept of spiritual worlds that exist. We are physical people, so we have a hard time relating to them, but we know of their existence. Yes.
That's the part where you get on your toes because try to go.
Yes, correct. Yes. So that is a verse from Isaiah talking about these angels of the vision that he saw. Yes.
When we sitting down here, for some people, they can forget about God. Like, I never forget to put on the yarmulke, so I forgot to put on the yarmulke.
Right, exactly the point. Exactly the point.
Okay. And these are the things that are important that can have help to remember to do all the things done.
Well, that's also why you have people that are helping each other to do a mitzvah. That's part of it as well. It's not just about the things that we're doing, but the relationships that we have is part of that as well. Okay, let's continue on. So when we perform a mitzvah, you are making a place, you're making a home for God. You are making this world a home for God. Okay, now, so to explain this a little bit more, when most of us, when we're living life as we are naturally inclined to be thinking about ourselves, which is natural, and this is who we are as human beings, the God created us this way. So we tend to not think this way. But when we start thinking beyond the system, beyond our natural inklings, then we begin seeing that nothing is extra, nothing is wasted, and every part of the world has a deeper meaning. So everything that you do has something to it. So, for example, if you were to go to a building, to an architect, and they're building something, let's say a nursing home, and you say, well, why do you need this thing on the wall? Well, because those are safety features. And why do you have to have this lighting here and that electric there? Everything has a purpose and everything has a reason. When something is built in the right way, when you're just renovating something, you may have to try and find how to fit that in. But if you're building something ground up, then that's the way it would be. If it's a good design, there would be nothing extra. And so the same thing is in life. The world that we live in is by design, and nothing that happens in our life happens only by chance. And so if I'm taking a stroll and I meet someone, it's not only by chance. There's a purpose for that. There's a reason for that. If I get stuck in traffic It's not only by chance. There's something to that. There's a reason. There was a video that was going around. I think it was in the I-80. I think it was in Detroit, maybe, and it made it to the news because there was an accident and people were sitting and waiting in traffic in the middle of the winter, and there were a bunch of Chabad yeshiva boys who were in that traffic. They got up and they started dancing, and they zoomed into that. But the same thing when we have something that's planned, you see that there's a purpose. You know, the villages is a planned city, so everything that's there, you see that they're very specific in how they design everything, where they put things here, where they put the town square, where they put the right. They're very specific in things that they do. Where some cities just sort of come about. The more people move in, they just sort of build each other up. And New York City is kind of like that, just sort of spreads out, and it's and everything has to sort of fall into place. But a master architect makes sure that nothing is extra and everything has its purpose. And all items that take place, everything is there to enhance the purpose of the creation. And therefore, when we see that the world is created, that each and every one of us is here to serve God and to elevate that. There's nothing extra in this world. Nothing that we have in our life is just there. There isn't just clutter, but there's something that's serving a purpose for what it's needed for. Text number 6. Everything was created only to serve me, and I was created only to serve my Creator. So this comes together. God put a world to serve me so that I could serve my Creator, so that we have this partnership bringing God's presence into this world. And this is why even mundane things is there to support our higher purpose. So God doesn't need a jacket, but you need a jacket to stay healthy, to serve God. God doesn't need a car, but you need a car in order to get to the place, in order to be able to come to the Torah class so you could study here. The Rebbe once spoke about the stock market, and he said that somebody puts money in a stock market in Wall Street, and you see that the stocks go up. Anybody's in the video? Anyone? And you see that those stocks are going up. So the reason for that is so that there could be someone that could take out that money to use it for a good purpose, to give tzedakah, etc. Hint, hint. And in order to serve a higher purpose. So the whole reason why you have the whole Wall Street is in order that you could be able to take those funds and to use it for something greater, for something more meaningful. And so this is true about everything in life. We don't just have things, but everything that we have is in order to serve to help us serve God properly. So if we have a car, it's to drive, to get to where, in order to get to where we have to go for using it, or maybe to give someone a ride, to help someone, or is it in order to to take us to a place where we otherwise could not have gone. So every aspect of life, ultimately it's about doing mitzvahs, and it's about studying Torah, and it's about prayer, but every aspect of life helps us with that. We have a cell phone. Think about how much Torah study we could do on our cell phone. Text number 7. Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rav, everything that God created in this world, He created for a purpose. Nothing was made without purpose. So it's not just poetic. It's something that's literal. It's saying that everything has meaning. And the meaning in life isn't just a series of great achievements, but it's all part of the plan. And the fact that we live in a world today where we have our life at our fingertips, and we have AI that's working for us, and we have so many things that are taking place, it's because today there's such a great energy of godliness in the world today that the entire world is working in that way. And so if we look at it in that, and if we have that perspective, it's not just that we happen to live in a generation where it happens to be that Google was founded. No, Google was founded in this generation because we are a generation that needs to use it in the way that we're able to use it. Yes, and many of them happen to be created by Jews. Okay, we're going to watch a video here.
There are so many things every day. But how often do we pause to see their higher purpose? Shabbat, Shabbat, honoring parents, raising children, welcoming guests. Those are clearly spiritual and full of meaning. What about the ordinary? Could they carry a higher calling too? Let's follow that. Fresh coincidence. Yes.
Beautiful. These videos, by the way, are available if you want to share it with friends. The short videos, the whole class, but those are. So, a good example of this we find with regards to the holiest place on earth. Where's the holiest place on earth? Jerusalem, and within Jerusalem, Beis Hamikdash, the Holy Temple. By the way, those who want to sign up for the trip to Israel, it's your last chance. It's almost full right now. Text number 8. The Talmud tells us, "Ein aniyas v'makom ashir." There's no place for poverty and place of wealth. What does that mean? That means that if you have the ability to do something in a nicer way, in a better way, then you should do that. Now, where do we find this? So we find that the Holy Temple was built out of gold. You had a golden menorah, you had a golden ark, everything was gold, everything was top of the line. Why? Because you have to make it nice. This is our Holy Temple, you got to make it nice. A synagogue should be the nicest building in town. But then we find an interesting story where the leader of the tribes of Israel wanted to give a donation to the temple. And the Torah tells us like this. Let's read text number 9. The leaders of Israel, the heads of the families, they were the leaders of the tribes, the ones who stood over the census, presented their offerings. They brought their offering before God, 6 covered wagons and 12 oxen, a wagon for every 2 leaders and an ox for each one. They brought them before the tabernacle. So there were a total of 12 oxen and 6 wagons, 1 ox per tribe leader, 1 wagon for every 2. And then 2 wagons were given to the Levi family of Gershon, whose job was to transport the draperies. And the remaining 4 was given to the Levite family of Merari, whose task was to transport the following: 50 massive gold-plated cedar planks, 100 silver sockets, 60 poles, 60 copper sockets, and other assorted items. 4 wagons seem to be a bit small for that. They're probably not the size of an 18-wheeler truck. So how come so little? They had to size it up to get everything to fit in there somehow. Yet we find that if you want to, that the temple is made with so much wealth, yet at the same time, they got cheap on these wagons for some reason. So the details of the story is not so important, but the lesson is, and that's text number 10, which is although the service in the temple was carried out with richness and grandeur, there was never any waste, God forbid. It was clear that every detail served a specific function and fulfilled the unique purpose for which it was made. That's why if 12 oxen and 6 wagons of a specific length and width were enough to transport the tabernacle, there was no need to bring more. Any surplus materials have to be directed towards another need within the tabernacle. So the idea over here is that we have to do things at the best, the most important, but nothing wasted. Because everything has to fulfill a purpose. Because if we just buy things because I happen to see an ad on TV that tells me that looks like a really, really good thing, well, is that something that could serve my purpose? Not my purpose, but the purpose that I'm trying to serve to bring God's presence in this world. If it is, then great. If not, then then not. My kids try to tell me, why do we have to drive a minivan? Why can't we drive like a nice car? I say, well, the minivan is here to serve the purpose. We have Kananahara kids that have to be transported to school. And so that's why minivans are created, to serve large families. That's why they're the most Honda Odysseys that you see are in Brooklyn and in Crown Heights and in and what do you call it, in Borough Park, right? Because that's why do you think they were created? But so everything has to have its place. Everything has to have its purpose that it serves. And so that's why nothing, at the same time when we say everything should be done in the best way, we also say nothing should be done in a wasted way. It should be done beautiful, but also not to waste. Text 11. It's a basic human nature that when a person doesn't feel the purpose and the goal of their life, that I was created only to serve my creator, they can't experience real inner calm or peace of mind. That's because the constant changes in time and place, along with the endless details and sub-details of life, create ongoing tensions and instability that fragment the person. When a person becomes aware of the goal, the purpose and meaning behind all those details, it brings a deep sense of calm. That calm transcends the movement and fluctuation of life's particulars and leads a person towards wholeness. It's obvious that a person functions with greater integrity and balance when they have such peace, both peace of mind and peace of body. In other words, when we have a clear sense of why, then the chaos, the schedule, the errands, the appointments, the responsibilities become are not as exhausting. We feel if we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, then we become overwhelmed by decisions and become disconnected from the larger picture. And we could just have a lot of things in life, but it doesn't seem to come together as to why I'm doing what I'm doing. But if we know why we're doing what we're doing, then it becomes clear. And even the things that are maybe you could call them evil necessities, but they're still necessities, but they become something that's more calm and peaceful because it's something that is necessary to fulfill my purpose. This is why we have something that helps us bring calmness, and that is known as the gift of Shabbos. But it's something unusual if we read about the story of Shabbos, which on one hand seems to be counterintuitive. Because what happens? God created Shabbos as a day of rest. But it's supposed to be a rest, so then you're not doing anything. So then I thought you're trying to accomplish something, trying to do something, so why are you resting? So let's take a look at text 12a, b, and b. The heavens and the earth and all that contain were completed on the seventh day. God completed his work which he had done, and he rested from all his labor. So God rested on the seventh day. So God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh day. So was there a purpose to resting, or he just exhausted, so he decided to sit down in his lounge chair? God needed a lounge chair to relax. So Rashi tells us no. The resting had its purpose within itself. What was the world lacking? Rest. The Shabbos came, and with it came rest. With that, the work was complete and finished. In other words, the rest itself had a purpose as well. Because what is the idea of rest? When you're taking a break, you are elevating everything that you've done during the week. If you're just constantly working, constantly on the move, then you're lacking the aspect of focusing where I'm going, where I'm headed. It's like sometimes you gotta, if you're trying to get to a destination, you gotta sometimes stop at a gas tank and fill up the gas. Otherwise, the car is going to die on the road. The Shabbos is a day when we say, 1 second. Let me take a step back, rest, relax, spend time with my family, spend time with my community, and focus on why am I here? Let's contemplate. What am I doing? Why am I running a whole week to get a paycheck or whatever I'm doing a whole week just in order to do more of that? So Shabbos says, no, you need a day of rest. That is a day of focus. Let's take a look at text 13. Shabbos brought rest into the world. The Shabbos came, and with it came rest, because with the completion of creation during the 6 days, the heavens and the earth and all that contain were completed. On the seventh day, God completed the work which he had done and rested from his labor. Something shifted. At that point, it became apparent throughout the world in every detail and across all variations of time and space that everything was created by the one God, and that a single unified purpose runs through all creation. The purpose is beyond the changes of time and place, and it's what brings true peace and tranquility to the entire world. And this is the core idea of Shabbos. The Shabbos is, there is a fragmentation in our life. We're taking a break from the fragmentation and allowing things to fall into place. We're stopped doing, we're avoiding work. We're not constantly on the run. We're refraining from travel. We're turning off our cell phones. Has anybody ever tried this? Try for Shabbos like I do, 24 hours, shut off your cell phone. Yes? Try it. See what happens. See if actually I could go a day and the world has not fallen apart without me looking at my cell phone. Try it. I do this every week. And I can tell you, I expect to open up my phone to big news after Shabbos. And no, I mean, sometimes there is, but usually there's no major news. Why? Because, sometimes you got to allow things to fall into place, to settle, and this is what Shabbos is. It's not a day. It's not a day of rest in the sense that I just got to sit back and relax because I worked too hard. It's a day of rest, of allowing the fragmentation to become unity, like you see in your figure. The process to turn into a purpose and to change becomes centering. So this is the idea of Shabbos. Shabbos is the alignment, the recognition that everything that we do over the week has to now be grounded with its purpose. Everything, we step back and we find this is not only a mitzvah Shabbos, it's a gift. It's a gift of Shabbos that allows us to refocus our entire life and an entire purpose. Any questions? Yes.
Going back to when you were talking about buildings,
Yeah.
and I find this in all other religions, when they build the building where you're going to worship, they make it wonderful and gorgeous. Could they not make it as wonderful and gorgeous and use that for another purpose, like to tell people that
If there is a limited amount of funds, then of course it's important to make sure to feed people. In most cases, there's funds available for both. If you're talking, back in the day, there used to be like when you live like in the shtetl, So they actually had like communal taxes, Jewish communal taxes. And they would collect from the community for where they actually had a center pot where they would where they would collect funds and distribute that to families in need. Um, that doesn't happen today because we don't really have a central community in the way it was back then. Although you do have, like my father-in-law in Crown Heights, he runs a organization where they collect funds and they distribute food vouchers that people could go do that every week. The reality is that back in the day, there were limited funds. The reality is that today, there's most people have more money than they need. And there is the funds available for both.
But they're going to do it. Talk about it, or just organization where maybe the dues higher and then you put it aside for something. Because most people go, oh, I have extra money, maybe I'll go.
So also a lot of those religious organizations, I mean, I should really just talk about Jewish ones, but we're also feeding poor people as well. We're also taking care of people in need. When someone needs help, who's the first person that they're going to turn to? To the rabbi. Many people don't realize that that's actually the case.
Not really. And they're just talking about Jews, I mean, talk about Christians or Muslims, and there's a lot of people out there that don't eat, and you spend all this money and makes you huge deficit. And
Look, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but the reality is there is a lot of money out there available, and there's no reason that today someone should go hungry. There's enough organizations that are feeding people
people go hungry every day.
in the United States. There's plenty of food kitchens. There's
1% of our population is food insecure. If they don't know where their next meal.
this is true, and there's also a lot of organizations that are helping with that, and the government as well. This is okay. This is a discussion that's really beyond beyond this class. Yeah, it's more of a political discussion. Yeah,
Following up with the why mikvahs?
mikvah. That's a great question. Actually, we need a mikvah. So if anybody wants to sponsor a mikvah, well, a mikvah is connected with family purity, and a woman goes to mikvah, after she has her period, and she cannot be together with her husband until she goes to mikvah, which means that if you are concerned about the future of the Jewish nation, then actually mikvah should be the first thing concerned about. As a matter of fact, it says that a mikvah actually comes before a synagogue. Because that is where the focus, because that's where the focus on family is. If you want to talk about building a family, then you need a mikvah. Because it has to be built in a special way. It has to be built in a special way, and it is very costly because it has to be done in a way where it's a direct natural rainwater getting there. So I'm not going to go into all the laws of mikvah now, but it's very complex. Yes.
When I was at the University of Florida, a man converted to Judaism and he went to the ocean as the mikvah. Was that the original mikvah? Is it still the?
So you can go to ocean, but the reality is women who, by the way, are supposed to go to mikvah at nighttime are most of them would want to have a nice, good, serene place to go, and that's why you do find that we put a lot into our mikvahs. They're comfortable, they're clean, they're nice, because we want to encourage that women should go to mikvah and not discourage them. But women don't want to go to the ocean, so it's easy to say go to the ocean, but when it's 9 o'clock at night and somebody's wife has to go to mikvah, then they're not going to the ocean. You want to have a nice, clean, comfortable place that's heated, that's that's clean, that it's a serene, enjoyable place to go to.
They're sure like everything you see.
That's part of it as well. Yes. Okay, we're getting off subject. Let's just finish here. Okay. Shh. And now this goes back to our question that many people have been asking when we talked about purpose last week, and the big question everyone was saying, okay, so how do I find my purpose?
Yeah.
And the answer is that every single person, they say there was a little girl. She came to school, and the teacher says, I want everyone to draw a picture of what they can imagine God looks like. So everyone's drawing a picture, and this little girl, she draws a picture of a scale. And she says, what? God looks like that? She says, yeah, every time my mother goes on it, she says, oh my God. Anyway, okay, so most people are born with an affinity in a certain direction, with certain talents and certain capabilities. Some may be more for playing music, or some for drawing, or some from singing. These things that we have are not accidental. It's not just that I happen to have a nice talent, but God has imbued us with a talent. Some people may be better at teaching. Some people may have a very good heart, and they like to help people. And also God directs us in certain places that helps us to focus on our divine mission. God doesn't necessarily say, look, I'm going to have a meeting with you. I'm going to tell you this is what I want you to do. But God leads us in ways that we are able to, if we tune ourselves in to that mode, we're able to find the things that God is giving us, those skills that God is giving us, those blessings that God is giving us in order to serve him in that way. Text 14, the Torah states, honor God with your possessions, with the skills he graced with you. If you have a beautiful voice, lead the congregation in prayer. So if you're able to sing, then that's something that you should do. And if God gave you a gift, he wants you to use it, not for self-glorification, but in order to serve him properly. And text number 15. This is the lesson for every Jew. We must be careful to ensure that every ability God has given us, even the smallest detail, is never wasted, God forbid. Instead, each one should be used to its fullest extent for the purpose and mission for which God created us. I was created only to serve my Creator. So if you're good at learning, consider how you could use that to teach someone else. If you're a natural leader or an administrator, see what you could do to bring people together. If you're good at sports, well, maybe find ways to encourage healthy living. So, we anybody here into football, so everybody knows there's a stadium. It's supposed to be in New York, but it's actually in New Jersey, and it's the Jets and Giants Stadium. So in 2012, it's known as the MetLife Stadium. MetLife Stadium, anybody heard? Right. It's a huge stadium, seats like 90,000 people. In 2012, there was what they called a Siyum Hashatz there. A Siyum Hashatz where they completed learning the entire Talmud. It takes 7.5 years. If you learn 2 full sides of Talmud every day, you'll finish it in 7.5 years. If you learn just 1 side, you'll finish it in 14 years. So they finished the entire Talmud, and they made a grand celebration to complete the Talmud, 2012. It's every 7.5 years. So at the time, there was a guy who was the president of the Tisch Family Foundation, which is behind it. His name is Thomas Steinberg, and he met with the organizers of the Siyum Hashas, and he told them, I worked on building the stadium for 12 years. And he says, and I always felt, why am I wasting my time building this stadium just so that you can have some players kill each other in a sport? He said, now I see that God wanted me to make this stadium so that I could have 90,000 Jews come together to celebrate completing the Talmud. So obviously God has put him in a position, look at you, you're building the stadium. And he felt like, I don't know, like, well, why am I wasting my time here? But God had put him in that position that he should be able to build that stadium, he said, so that you could be able to celebrate the study of Talmud. The point is that God gave you a specific skill. It's because only you have the ability to do that. And God put you in a specific specific path in life, and maybe a path that seems to be a little bit shaky. Maybe it was a trail that had some bumps on it, but God wanted you to take that road. God wanted you to take that path in order to serve him properly. And this perspective is a gift in its own right, because it's mean that nothing is random. Every ability, every interest, every quirk, every strength is all part of carrying God's design. God didn't just give you a mission, he equipped each and every one of you with it. So your journey that you're taking is all part of God saying to you, this is why you're here. If you live another day, it's because God wants you to be here. And when you recognize your talents were given on a purpose, for a purpose, it transforms the way you see yourself. You're not just a person with skills, you're a person with a calling. It's empowering and it's profoundly grounding. And so these are not just things to admire from a distance, but they're meant to be lived. To know that God gave you something that you and only you are able to accomplish in this day, in this time, in this moment. So let's take a look at what we've learned so far. Lesson number 1, we explored the 4 areas of meaning: self-improvement, helping others, being productive, and authentic relationship. Text number 2, we took it to another step and said that it also has to come from outside the system, meaning that we said that you have to have a purpose, that we have to have a purpose-driven life. And number 3, we're taking a step further to say that this purpose-driven life is not just for the more spiritual things, but every aspect of our life, even the mundane things, every aspect of our life is there to serve that higher purpose. Text number 16, Rabbi Eliezer Gurkov. A man once called out to God and asked for fulfillment. God appeared and said, as it happens, I have some fulfillment available today at a reasonable price. How much have you got in your pockets? $20. Well, as it happens, I'm running a special. The cost of fulfillment today is $20. But that's all I have. And if I give it to you, I won't be able to buy gas for my car. Ah, says God, you have a car? The price for fulfillment just went up, $20 plus your car. But without my car, how'll I get to my job? Ah, you have a job. The price of fulfillment went up again, $20 plus your car and your job. But without a job, how will I provide for my family? Ah, you have a family. The price of fulfillment will include your family too. Do we have a deal? The man decides to keep quiet at this time and he agrees. But one more thing, says God, before I give you fulfillment, I want to give you these $20. But it's not your money, it is mine. I want you to be my agent and spend it as I would. I also want you to take the car, but remember, it isn't your car, it is mine. And I want you to drive it to places that I would. I also want you to take the job, but it's my job that you have. So I want you to behave so I want you to behave there as I would. Finally, I want you to take the family, but it's not your family, it's mine. Care for them as I would. And with this, the man finally found fulfillment. So the message is clear. When we're living as an agent of God, everything in our life, money, work, family, even your car, becomes part of the mission. And that's a secret of real lasting fulfillment. So if we walk out here with this in mind, if God gives it to you, there's meaning to it. Your day, your strength, your relationships, they're all part of something bigger. Go out and live them in that way. Let's hope that this week is going to be a more meaningful and purposeful week.
the mundane. 1. God created our world because he desired a home in the lowest, most resistant place where his presence is hidden and belief isn't automatic. God wants us, with our free will and limited perception, to choose to make this world into a home for him. 2. Every good second makes a piece of the world into a home for God. It advances the purpose for which the universe was created. 3. When we succeed in playing our role in God's grand cosmic story, our every action and moment is imbued with constant significance, and our lives become meaningful. 4. Everything within the world fits into the divine plan. Nothing is random. Even mundane, non-religious looking activities can be part of the divine purpose of creation. Perform them with the intention of helping us serve God better. 5. Our talents are meant to be part of our divine mission. God gave us the specific skill set we have because there's something only we can influence. When we direct those strengths toward our purpose, the ordinary becomes sacred and our lives become meaningful. 6. Living with the awareness that every part of reality has a role and a place in God's plan brings unity and harmony to every element of our lives, infusing us with a feeling of fulfillment and tranquility.
Next, we're going to talk about the rhythms of time, how to make meaning in the times of life. And that's going to be next Sunday, God willing, same time. We had a few chats here. The members of the community wants to go into poverty. We're both like Trump. Thank you, Cindy, for joining.